everyone. My name is Bernie.
And I'm Shasta, and we want to welcome you to the next Millennium Seminar here in Pioneer Memorial Church in Berrien Springs, Michigan. I don't advise you going home and looking that up on the map because it might not be there.
You might have a hard time finding it, huh,
But it's
Shasta?
a good place,
That's right. We're coming to you live on the campus of Andrews University right here in Berrien Springs, Michigan. And we just want to welcome the world. We know that you're joining us via satellite all over the world now, and we welcome you to our site tonight.
In fact, chances are that you are one in over estimated 1 million people watching here tonight from 6 continents in over 7,600 downlink sites that's being translated in over 39 languages. In fact, there's translators downstairs right now attempting to keep up with what Bernie and I are saying.
That's right.
As they're trying to go out over 6 continents and 100 countries.
That's right. We just want to apologize to those translators right now.
Yes, we apologize.
They're going to have a hard time keeping up with us. That's right.
So whether you're sitting in a church, in a school, in an auditorium, a theater, a football stadium, a prison, or a home, we welcome you here because most likely you're sitting in an environment that is very new. So Bernie and I just want to welcome you here tonight.
That's right. And right now, we're going to give our local live audience the opportunity to welcome the world. We told you about this local audience. Right now, I just came up with a brainstorm. It's going to be great. I'm from the South, so I'm going to have everyone here in our local site. Shasta, this is great.
Yeah.
I want you to say, hi, y'all. Can you do that?
Translators, this means hello.
It means hello. So local site, let's welcome the world. On 3, let's say hi, y'all.
Humor him.
1, 2, 3, hi. All right. They sounded so good.
I told him to get all his goofy stuff out of his system tonight, so please come back tomorrow night. Don't let that scare you away. It's going to get better from here.
In addition to all those translators and people, I want to tell you about a lady out in Arizona.
Oh, the closed captioning lady.
The closed captioning lady. She receives a signal from our command station here. It travels 22,500 miles into the up to the satellite. Travels back down to where she is. She types in all the words right now.
Attempts to type in all the words.
She's trying to keep up with us, right?
We talk fast.
And so then it travels back to us via a ground line, and then everything that she types in comes up on your screen. That's how we get our closed captioning.
Very impressive. Something else that we just learned today is there's an encoder. It's like 6 feet by 3 feet by 3 feet, and these cost $500,000 that we purchased here. The second one ever purchased was by CNN. The first one ever purchased is right here in yours truly, Berrien Springs control room. Very impressive, isn't it? I was impressed.
That's right. Excellent. We know you've probably heard that tonight's topic, Titanic, are we next? And we're just excited about that because we know everyone's heard or at least maybe even seen the movie Titanic. We know it's going to be relevant. We know that you're going to find something for where you are in your world that's going to be relevant for you tonight.
And tomorrow night is Star Wars When the Empire Strikes Back. And to my little sister in Denver, she's going to love that. She's got it all over her wall.
That's right. And there are a number of other topics that are coming up. In fact, we're just going to mention just a couple more tonight. We have coming up October 10, Star Wars, of course, When the Empire Strikes Back. And then October 11th, Sunday, Why did Past Civilizations Fall?
Perfect. Hey, we just want to thank you so much for coming out here tonight. We have a great lineup of music, great diversity, genders, and age groups, and cultures, and languages, and everything. So let's get the show on the road.
All right. I want to invite everyone tonight to just close your eyes and pray with me. We're going to have just a brief prayer, and then what you've all been waiting for. Let's pray. Dear God, we thank you so much for this opportunity to be here tonight. And God, we thank you for bringing everyone, in fact, for bringing the world to watch this presentation tonight to the next Millennium Seminar. We just pray and ask that you give us open hearts and open minds, that we will receive something special tonight through the words of Dr. Nelson's message. We ask you, Lord, to be with us. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Tonight,
Plan C, a deeper look, challenges us all to take a deeper look at our own lives. And I know that tonight's presentation will even challenge us even further to take a look at our own lives. Dr. Dwight Nelson, wow, we're excited that he's here with us tonight. He's going to be with us throughout this series. Dr. Nelson has been the senior pastor of the Pioneer Memorial Church for 15 years. He also serves as adjunct professor for the Theological Seminary here on the campus of Andrews University. He has authored numerous books. He's also authored various scholarly articles for various journals. And Dr. Nelson has traveled the world. He's been all over. He's done some tremendous things. He spoke to thousands and thousands. And he has his own personal style that's dynamic, it's invigorating, and we know it's going to be a powerful, powerful message tonight.
Bernie and I just wanted to tell you that with all these academic accomplishments, that seems to, in this world nowadays, something that's even more important is character and integrity and somebody who can be real and honest. And Bernie and I are unscripted up here, meaning that we have the freedom to say whatever we want. So you know that I'm being honest, and I'm saying this from my heart when I believe that Dwight Nelson is somebody who can reach all audiences. There's all kinds of cultures and countries that come here to study. This is a man that you will see be so sincere with you tonight. He will open up his heart and his life for you, and we would just like you to welcome Dr. Dwight Nelson.
Thank you very much. Thank you for those kind words, Shasta and Bernie. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I have just got to blurt this out. I am so excited about the journey you and I are embarking on tonight. I believe it is a most momentous journey whose time has come. And I've got to say this. I really feel humbled to think that you and I get to make this journey together. Thank you very much for being here tonight. One of my favorite stories is told by Thomas Gillespie from Princeton University. It's a story about a little schoolboy who comes home one day. He has to write up a report. He needs an introduction, and so he hurries into the kitchen where Mother is getting dinner already. He, without warning, grabs her apron and looks up into her face, and he says, "Mama, how was I born?" Now, Mama knew that the question of human reproduction is inevitable. One day they're going to ask you. But I'm telling you, when you're getting supper ready is not the time to talk about the birds and the bees. And so she grabs the old saw, and she looks down at Junior, and she says, "The stork brought you." "Thank you, Mom." And he went into the living room where Grandmother is crocheting. He comes up to Grandmother and says, "Grandma, how was Mom born?" Grandma is from the old school. She won't touch this one with a 10-foot pole. Stork brought her. "Grandma, how were you born?" "Well, stork brought me too." "Thank you." He goes back to his desk and picks up his pen and begins to write. "There hasn't been a normal birth in our family for 3 generations. You can't fool the kids, ladies and gentlemen. They already know. But I think about what that boy wrote. You know what, folks? On this planet tonight, there hasn't been a normal birth in 3 generations. Something's going on planet Earth, and nobody's quite sure just what it is. Come on, you don't have to be. Ask any thinking man, ask any thinking woman on the 6 continents we're reaching tonight, the 7,600 downlink sites, and you got those stats just perfect, thank you. Ask any thinking person tonight, and I'm telling you, hands down, unanimous, ominous sense that human civilization is facing a most crucial juncture in our journey through time. There hasn't been a normal birth on this planet in 3 generations. I don't care how you stack it. You want to talk about economics? You want to talk about ecology? You want to talk about politics? Let's not talk about that. You want to talk about morality or spirituality? Any way you stack it, there hasn't been a normal birth on this planet in 3 generations, period. So what's going on, folks? It makes you wonder, maybe we are no different than the Titanic, cruising mindlessly beneath that starry midnight sky. Down beneath the decks, partying to beat the band, and all the while the indicators are mounting, the ominous warnings, danger, 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 destruction ahead, wake up planet Earth. The Titanic. Are we next? Because as it turns out, on that fateful voyage of 1912, it was an hour before midnight on that cloudless, starry, starry night. No wind to speak of, and so the frigid North Atlantic Sea is as calm as a plate glass mirror. No moon. Just 2,235 people crammed aboard the RMS Titanic, April 14, 1912. And so it was that while the band played on beneath the decks in the first-class lounge, and while the night watchman paced the bridge above, slowly but surely that boatload of human cargo is stealthily and silently cruising to its imminent destruction. Fact of the matter is, the ship is cutting through the water at about 22 knots per hour. Survivors would later recall, yeah, you know, you're right, there was a gentle shudder, but nobody thought anything of it except the occupants of the bridge. Moments before the collision, in that moonless sky, they saw the looming form of this towering iceberg. The captain yells, "Turn," and the helmsman spins that wheel. You know what, ladies and gentlemen? They would have been better off if they had struck the iceberg head on. Because in moving to the starboard, oh, you know about icebergs. Come on. 3/4 of the iceberg is beneath the surface. Is that not right? So when they brush the side, that giant Titanic can opener slits a 1/4-inch opening 300 feet down the iron hole, and the metal plates begin to pop. Come on. Do you know what one of the deckhands proudly announced to the reporters when they were leaving Southampton? Not even God himself could sink this ship, because the builders had it figured out. There would be 16 watertight compartments, and they said, even if 4 of those compartments burst open, we can still float. As one researcher later noted, almost mathematically, not 4, not 5, 6, pop, sucking in the frigid Atlantic water, and in 2 hours, she's gone. Of the 2,235 occupants, 1,522 met their death in those dark waters. Only 713 get saved. And the world is lined up on every continent on this planet this year to watch the tragic story repeated on that silver screen. Why? Listen, I have a feeling that the Titanic, and the reason we lined up as a human race to watch this, I have a feeling it had a lot more to do than just the life and death story of those heartthrobs, Kate Winslet and, what is it, Leonardo DiCaprio, is that how you pronounce his Italian name? Could it be that that film, in fact, there is a subconscious sense to the viewer the world over that the tragedy at the beginning of this century is in fact a warning parable of an ominous, unnamed tragedy that hangs like Damocles' sword over the human race? Are we at the end of this millennium facing imminent destruction? And all the while, are we beneath the decks partying to beat the band? The great Jewish writer Abraham Heschel, listen to this. He penned these words: "The crack of doom is in the air, but the people unperturbed are carried away by a race to be merry." You say, "Come on, Dwight, you're being a bit drastic tonight, aren't you?" Am I? Just a few weeks ago here in South Bend, Indiana, I'm in a bookstore. I see a title that catches my eye, and I say, wait a minute. I want to read this book. Title of the book, The Future in Plain Sight. Now, this book is written by Eugene Linden. He's an award-winning Time magazine journalist, New York Times journalist. But it's not just the title, it's the subtitle, 9 Clues to the Coming Instability. For 282 pages, Linden meticulously sets out his case for imminent global instability that will suck the human race down. I'm going to run these by you real quick. 9 of them. He gives 9 clues. Let me give you the 9. Number 1. The collapse of our integrated global economy. Come on, you don't have to be a business major at any university to know we're facing that. I just got this yesterday in the mail. This is the October 12 issue of Newsweek magazine. Can you read it? The crash of '99, ? Are we headed there? Global economic meltdown, is that it? Number 1, he talks about that. Number 2, the massive unprecedented migration of the rural poor to the world's bursting cities. Number 3, not only urban but national and global overcrowding through population explosions. Number 4, the widening gap between the rich and the poor. Number 5, the ominous global warming and the rising sea levels of Earth. Number 6, the spreading collapse of the bioecosystems of life on this planet. Number 7, ominous indicator, mounting water and food shortages from troubling climate changes. Number 8, the resurgence of spreading infectious diseases. And finally, number 9, growing radical right-wing fundamentalism in all the world religions. Folks, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to sense that his pulsating bottom line is true. We as a civilization are faced for an uncertain future. Come on. You know that. I know it. Hey, remember Jacques Cousteau? Remember that name? He died just a year ago. Jacques Cousteau, the famous French scientist, underwater explorer. I mean, kids, grandkids, moms and dads, everybody loved to see those Cinerama portrayals under the sea. He took the pictures. Jacques Cousteau died, 87 years old last year. And when he died, 2 or 3 days later, the headlines carried these words. Caught my eye, obviously. Here's the headline: Cousteau's memoir predicts early extinction for the human race. He spent more than 2 decades, we come to find out, putting his 425-page autobiography together. English translation of the French title, Man, Octopus, and Orchid. Days after his death, publishers rushed that journal, that autobiography into print. And then it was that the world discovered a dark pessimism and alarm never heard before from this gregarious and beloved explorer. I want to read what he wrote. Posthumously published, ominous warning, here it is: the road to the future leads us smack into the wall. We simply ricochet off the alternatives that destiny offers. A demographic explosion that triggers social chaos and spreads death, nuclear delirium, and the quasi-annihilation of the species, end quote. Okay, how long until this scientist turned prophet, how long till that prediction comes true? He puts it in his book. Our survival is no more than a question of, get this, 25, 50, or perhaps 100 years. One reviewer wrote, the book is a distress signal and SOS. It is the work of a planetary sociologist deeply worried about the madness of man. Ladies and gentlemen, I repeat, there has not been a normal birth on this planet in 3 generations. On the brink of the next millennium, I ask you then, what's going on? Could it be tonight that while the band plays on, there is a titanic tear that is slitting the whole of our civilization open, and all the economic and all the ecological and all the political watertight compartments in the world will never be able to save us? On the night of the Titanic disaster, by the way, one of the owners of the White Star Line was aboard. He was summoned up to the communication room. They had just received they called it a Marconigram, precursor to our telegrams, from a ship ahead of them in the evening, warning, ice ahead. In the journey that you've charted, icebergs. The owner reads the communique. You know what he does? He neatly folds it up, puts it into his tuxedo, and goes back down to the party. He could have saved all their lives if he had believed the communique. Can you believe it? It makes you wonder if perhaps tonight, just maybe, there's a communique for the human race that might somehow save us from impending disaster. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to submit to you that in fact tonight there is just such a communique. Just like Jacques Cousteau and Eugene Linden and Abraham Heschel and a host of contemporary sociologists and scientists, a communique that is warning of impending disaster. But get this, not only does a communique issue a warning, it offers a survival strategy for you and me to survive the coming collapse. Before you write this communique off, by the way, you'd better at least examine it like the Titanic owner did. Sure, be my guest. If you want to stick it in your tux pocket and walk away and say, I don't believe it, you have the right to do that. But sir, you are bright enough to know that you owe it to yourself to at least consider the communique. Tonight I want to put that communique in your hands. I want to draw your attention to a book that is stirring up more than curious interest among both skeptics and believers alike. A book that has weathered 3,500 years of examination and critique. Look, I am not going to ask you to suspend your critical judgment and discernment. No way, Jose. But I would like you to please set aside some of those preconceptions you may have and with me take a very candid look at this ancient document. I mean, whether you believe in God or not, the fact of the matter is, living on the brink of the next millennium, you owe it to yourself. Hey, wait a minute. You've got nothing to lose. And we have everything to gain, isn't that right? Because like the Titanic, we don't have to be next. Now, the communique of which I speak is a solitary book called the Bible. And wouldn't you know, tucked away between these black covers is an ominous cryptic line that, would you believe it, predicts the Titanic generation. I want to begin with that line. Here in our downlink site, everybody has one of these Next Millennium Seminar Bibles in front of you. It's right there in the rack in front of you. I want to say a word now to our 7,600 other venue sites. Obviously, because of the technology, you can't read. They've had to darken the venue where you are tonight. For your sake, we're going to go ahead and put the text that we're reading here in the book. We'll put it up on the screen and you'll be able to follow along. Those of you who are here in this site, here at Andrews University, I wish you'd pull that Bible out. It's a New King James Version, a very popular translation today. I'd like to begin with the first text. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. You say, hey, wait a minute, Dwight, I don't even know anything called Thessalonians. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you page numbers. Throughout the night, throughout the lecture series, I'll give you the page numbers so that you don't have to worry a moment. Here's the page number, 1,100, pardon me, 1,137. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. We're going to read just two verses, verses 3 and 4. Here it is. For when they say peace and safety, that's inside column, can you see it there? When they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction comes upon them as labor pains upon a pregnant woman, and they shall not escape. But you, brethren, and we'd say, hey, listen, we're a little more inclusive today. We say, you, men and women, you are not in darkness so that the day should overtake you as a thief. Ladies and gentlemen, mark it well. There will be a generation in human history that will sense the word going out is, hey, not to worry, peace and safety. But when you hear peace and safety, warning, sudden destruction is on the way. Just like the Titanic, parting to beat the band beneath the deck, destruction is on the way. Jacques Cousteau, Eugene Linden, Abraham Heschel, maybe they are right. Supposing they are, what would this communique tell us to do? Another very urgent appeal. Go to the Old Testament this time, a little book called Amos. Let me give you the page number, page 890. Old Testament prophet, 890 in our Next Millennium Seminar Bible. Amos chapter 4, verse 12. When I spot out just an inside column, there it is, verse 12 toward the bottom. God is speaking. Listen to this. Therefore, thus will I do to you, O Israel, because I will do this to you. What's the next line? Prepare what? Prepare to meet your God, O Israel. A 5-word imperative for the Titanic generation. Living with the possibility of colossal global destruction. This communique issues an earnest summons. Get ready to meet your God. Hey, listen, folks, what if this unprecedented global upheaval is an ominous indicator that God is about to personally return to this planet? Perhaps the most celebrated portion, however, of this communique is the book at the very end. It's called The Apocalypse. Nostradamus and a host of other psychics have made this book very popular. And by the way, we've got a lecture coming up where we're going to take a look at some of Nostradamus' predictions. The book of Revelation, here's the line I want to leave with you. Take a look at this. The last book of the Bible. What's the page number here? It's page 1183. Revelation chapter 14. 1183, page 1183. You know, here's a book. It seems like a book and a message right now that we're going to note perfectly fitted for the Titanic generation. Do you know why? Because this message is encased in an apocalyptic symbol of an angel. If there ever were a generation that has gone bananas about angels, it is this generation. So we can identify with an angel. Take a look at this angel that circles the planet. with an urgent message to every occupant of this civilization. Revelation 14, verse 6, then I saw another angel flying in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to preach to those who dwell on the earth, to every nation, tribe, tongue, and people, saying with a loud voice, and by the way, in the Greek, here are the two words, megaphone. Mega means big, phone, phonograph, means voice. We get our word megaphone from it. I.e., this angel is not whispering. He is shouting this message we're about to read. It must be important. What's the message? Verse 7, fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come, and worship him who made heaven and earth, the seas, and the springs of water. You're saying, hey, come on, Dwight. What is so urgent about that message? Let me show you the very next scene that follows these words. Just turn the page in our seminar Bible, so you're on the next page now. Drop down to verse 14. See here, verse 14. Then I looked, and behold, a white cloud, and on the cloud sat one like the Son of Man, having on his head a golden crown, and in his hand a sharp sickle. And another angel came out of the temple, crying with a loud voice to him who sat on the cloud, thrust in your sickle, and reap, for the time has come for you to reap, for the harvest of the earth is ripe. So he who sat on the cloud thrust in his sickle on the earth, and the earth was reaped. You know what, folks? You don't have to be a Greek scholar to in fact sense that whatever is being described here is obviously, cryptically, a description of the end of human civilization through the metaphor of a harvest. So the message that precedes it, somebody is about to return to this planet and history is about to be abruptly brought to a cataclysmic end. The message that precedes it is just as urgent as the communique the Titanic received before its destruction. And by the way, it is hardly coincidental that this generation gets an angel couched in apocalyptic symbols. We are big on angels. Come on, go into any bookstore. Angels, angels, angels. In fact, here in the United States, I think Hollywood has even put angels on the map. What is this? Touched by an Angel, one of the hottest Sunday night programs here in the U.S. Anywhere you go, angel, angel. It's a hot marketing strategy. Not a coincidence, is it, that for this generation comes this message. I want to repeat it. I want to read it again with you. It's that significant. Verse 6, then I saw another angel flying in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to preach to those who dwell on the earth, to every nation, tribe, tongue, and people, saying with a loud voice, fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come, and worship him who made heaven and earth, the sea, and the springs of water. Here's the pressing question tonight, Titanic generation. What is the meaning of this urgent message? I mean, we just read the words, fear God and give glory to him. What does that mean? Can you believe it? For a no-fear generation, how do you like this? Comes a fear God message. I've got a Gen Xer who's my son, 18, getting ready for college, Kirk. Kirk 3 or 4 years ago came back from the mall. He had, I don't know, 3, 4 black and white t-shirts. All the t-shirts had the same big red letters, 2 words on them. No fear. Why would anybody wear a no fear t-shirt? Because he's got no fear. Like the rest of his generation. Come on. No fear at all. Kirk will do anything. In fact, one year, he was 13, and we were down in Atlanta. And we went to visit, Six Flags over Atlanta? Great America. That's it. And so Kirk is dragging me to the Wild Ninja. They boast of the fastest roller coasters in the world. Wild Ninja, come on. It's a corkscrew, 360 degrees, with a million G's so that you look like a Russian cosmonaut while you're riding through that thing. And Kirk said, Dad, I got to go. And I said, Kirk, you bet you got to go. I want to get a picture of you, so you get on there and I'll take the picture. The kid gets on at 13, no fear. He goes all the way through. He comes jumping off at the end. All right, Dad, you got the picture. Now you're going with me. I mean, if you're a human being, get off. If you're insane, stay on. No fear. Come on. We are living in a no-fear generation tonight. No fear about unprotected sex. No fear about unbridled adrenaline. No fear. Do you know why this generation has no fear? Do you know why people have no fear? Because they believe there is no future. Party on, dude. Just like there's no tomorrow. You know what? We may be more right than we first thought. And so isn't it paradoxical that for a no-fear generation comes a fear God message? And by the way, did you notice? It's fear God. Well, come on, you say, hey, who wants to know a God who is somebody to be afraid of? Not me. Well, wait a minute, folks. Before we write it off too quickly, you need to know that whenever those two words appear in that combination in this book, in the communique, fear God, it simply means take God seriously. Do not write him off so casually, so easily. You know, Major League Baseball is heading to its grand finale. The climax is called the World Series. Mark McGwire, the whole world has heard about our home run king. You know what? I was watching tonight, that St. Louis slugger. He did it. He broke Babe Ruth, Roger Maris, and he's now rounding, number 62. He's rounding third base. He's running towards home, and he's going like this. What's he doing? Quasi-prayer. An interviewer later asked him, say, Mark, how do you do this? He says, I want to thank the man upstairs. Ladies and gentlemen, is that who God is? Is he the man upstairs? Is he the buddy next door? What is he? Some sort of celestial Santa Claus that gives us whatever our hearts desire, home runs included, if we've been good? Who is this God? I want to tell you something. You read this book from cover to cover, and it is clear. He is the creator of all life. He is the source of all life. He is the ruler of all life. He is the judge of all life. He is the life of all life. He is the God of all gods. He is the only supreme cosmic being in this universe who is eternal. He is infinite. He is all-powerful. He is just and good and holy. And wow! The lone cry of a midnight angel, fear God and give glory to him. Prepare to meet your God, O earth. Oh, I'm telling you what, folks. Obviously, there is a compelling warning in that lone midnight angel's cry. Any way you cut it, it's time to take God seriously. So, here's the question. Is it bad news? What we're talking about tonight, come on, Dwight, what is all this bad news about? Hey, is this bad news or is it good news? I want to share with you how, in fact, it is compellingly good news. Watch this. You're not going to believe it. What did we just say? Fear God. What did it say? Fear God and give him, what was it? Give him glory. What does it mean to give glory to God? Back to the Old Testament. This is page 738, the book of Jeremiah. Oh, I want to show you, this is very good news. 738, Jeremiah chapter 9, outside column verses 23 and 24. Thus says the Lord, let not the wise man glory in his wisdom. It can be a wise woman, of course, just let the wise human being. Let not the mighty glory in his might. Let not the rich glory in his riches, but let him who glories glory in this, that she understands and knows me, that I am the Lord, exercising loving kindness and judgment and righteousness in the earth, for in these I delight. God says, I have one passion, and that passion is that your passion be that you know me. And by the way, the Hebrew word right there is yada. Nobody uses it today, of course not. Yada. But what is so significant is that this word is also used in one of the stories in the very beginning. And you've got to see this. Take a look. What does yada mean? Back to the beginning, Genesis. Now, you're not going to have a hard time finding Genesis, because we're going to go right back to the beginning of Genesis, chapter 4. I'll just tell you, it's page 3. And we're only going to read one verse. Genesis chapter 4, verse 1. Now, right here at the bottom, now Adam knew Eve, his wife. There it is, yada. Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain and said, I've acquired a man from the Lord. Hey, Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she became pregnant. Now, folks, you don't have to be an OBGYN, and you don't have to be Dr. Ruth, the sex specialist, to realize that in Hebrew, we got a code word going here. For intimacy, the highest kind of intimacy between two human beings, between a husband and a wife, there's sexual intimacy going on when the word yada is used. What's that mean? God says, wait a minute. You know what I want? I want you to yada me. I want to be so close to you that you and I experience a very personal, a very intimate kind of friendship. He's not talking sexuality, you know that. A very close kind of friendship where we share, just as if there were nobody else in the whole universe. I want you to glory in this, that you, yada, you know me. Hey, wait a minute. If there ever were a generation in the history of the human race that is big on relationships, it has got to be the Gen X generation. We call them Gen X in this country. They're the 20-somethings. You know what, baby boomers, we are big on relationships. We have what's called relational breadth. Everybody's our friend. But Gen Xers don't have breadth, they have depth. Fewer friends, but much closer. Hey, wait a minute, Celine Dion, that smash global hit from the Titanic. What is that song about if it is not about a relational passion? What was the name of that song? My Heart Will Go On. I got the words right here. I know you're hoping I'll sing to you tonight, but if I do, you won't wait to the end of the lecture. So let me just read. Near, far, wherever you are, I believe that the heart does go on, and you're here in my heart. We wanted to have Celine Dion here, but she's too expensive. You're here in my heart, and there's nothing I fear. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a generation that hungers and thirsts for relational depth, for something that goes even beyond the touch of death, which is why the Bible portrait of God is so profound, because that is exactly what God is offering the human race, a relationship that goes even beyond the touch of death. Talk about a relationship that we hunger for. Celine Dion is right. There is a relationship that can go on and on. You know what? Maybe Augustine is right too, that old desert sage. Maybe Douglas Copeland, the Gen X guru that kind of got this thing going, maybe he's right. Augustine described the God-shaped vacuum in every human heart when he wrote these words. Our hearts are restless until they find rest in you, O God. And then along comes Douglas Copeland, a millennium and a half later, in his book, Life After God. And he gets to the end of the book and he says, wait a minute, my secret is that I need God, that I am sick and can no longer make it alone. Hey, wait a minute. Could it be that beneath our frenzy and our partying, there is a desperate effort to fill the God-shaped vacuum that lies down deep inside of all of us tonight? I'm looking into your well-manicured faces. It looks like your future is very rosy. But could it be that we all have those midnight moments when we stare at the ceiling on any continent on earth and we wonder, is this all there is to life? Because there has got to be much more. Because there is much more. Tonight, there comes an appeal to a world that has so flippantly written God off. And that appeal is, take me in. Fear God and give glory to Him, to this Titanic generation. Can you believe it? There comes the offer of a forever friendship with Him. Over and over, God's appeal echoes throughout the book. Hey, look at this. Still Old Testament, Job. It's everywhere. Here's Job. What's the page number on this? Page 496. Job 496. God speaking again. Outside column, this is Job 22, verse 21. Now, acquaint yourself with Him, with God, and be at peace. Thereby, good will come to you. Anybody here on the planet tonight that doesn't long for peace and good? Again and again and again. The invitation is so simple, but the promise is so profound. Get to know me, God says. Please, know me. I have for you a forever friendship. Come to me. The great author A.W. Tozer, here's how he put it. I'm quoting him now. The whole outlook of mankind might be changed if we could all believe that we dwell under a friendly sky and that the God of heaven, though exalted in power and majesty, is eager to be friends with us. You know what? United Airlines promises us the friendly skies. Turns out the skies are a whole lot friendlier than United first thought. My, how much of a friend? How much of a friend is this God? Right here, I want to share with you what I believe is the most significant truth of human existence. Ladies and gentlemen, get this straight. If you get this truth, there is nothing you cannot face in the next millennium. There is nothing going on in your life right now that you cannot handle if you get this truth straight. Before I state the truth, rapid fire sequence, 3 texts from the Gospel of John. So find John, and we're going to notice Very quickly, 3 texts in a row. John, the Gospel of St. John. This is John 3:16, page 1027. This is the most profound text in all the Bible. Probably the most well-known, too. John chapter 3, verses 16 and 17. Take a look at this. By the way, you've got a red letter Bible. That means whenever you run into red letters, it's because Jesus is speaking. So he's speaking right here. John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. Folks, in the context of our Fear God moment just a few minutes ago, is this a God who is somebody to be afraid of? Hardly. He is not somebody to be afraid of. Well, then, how can I take this God who is way out there in the universe? How can I put a human face on him? Second text here in John. Go over to John 14 now. Let me give you the page number 1043. This is Thursday night before the execution of Christ on Friday. Thursday night, Jesus is speaking. In fact, one of his followers has the temerity to ask him, hey, you talk about the Father. Who is this Father you keep talking about? Jesus answers, verse 8, Philip said to him, Jesus, Lord, show us the Father, and it is sufficient for us. And Jesus said to him, have I been with you so long, and yet you have not known me, Philip? He who has seen me has seen the Father. So how can you say, show us the Father? In fact, look at verse 7. If you had known me, you would have known my Father also. And from now on, you know him and have seen him. So the God of the universe has come down here, and he has gotten in-your-face kind of closeness with the human race through Jesus Christ. Okay, so he's close, but how does he think of me? How does he think of you? Ooh, turn one more page, John 15, still the same Thursday night. John 15:15, no longer do I call you servants, for a servant does not know what his master is doing, but I have called you friends. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. Incontrovertible proof that God is not somebody to be afraid of. He is someone to be a friend of. That's what God's all about. I have called you friends. Okay, Dwight, so what is this most significant truth with which I can face anything in the next millennium? Here it is. The God of the universe is offering the Titanic generation tonight a forever friendship with him through Jesus Christ. Does that include the likes of you and me? Absolutely. Come on, folks, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what your past is. It doesn't matter even how you feel about yourself right now. There is someone in the universe tonight who wants to be your friend. I know you've had friends walk out on you. Your lover has deserted you. Your spouse has divorced you. Your parents wrote you off. Your children have abandoned you. But tonight there is someone in this universe who says, I'll never leave you or forsake you. I want to be friends. I have for you a forever kind of love with a forever friendship. And forever, by the way, means it never ends. You say, oh, it can't be true about somebody like me. Come on. Oh, yes, it is. You just watch how Jesus treated people like you and me, and with every picture that you see, you remember now, you've got to say it to yourself, this is God personally in action. You want to know how God treats the socially disenfranchised, the economically marginalized? You want to know how he treats abandoned children, abused women, runaway men? You want to know how he treats prostitutes and tax collectors and other such nobodies like you and me? You just watch Jesus. Watch him like a hawk, because how Jesus treats them is how God treats you. Come on, take a look at Jesus. That's why there are 4 gospel stories. Hey, you want to know how God treats the guilty? You watch Jesus. Watch him like a hawk. When the religious prelates dump a 20-something girl at the sandaled feet of the master, and they say, all right, we caught her in bed with a man who's not her husband. The law of Moses says we ought to stone her. What do you say? And Jesus says, all right. And he carves in the dust a few words. The one without sin casts the first stone, and the men are gone. And then he takes that tender little chin, mascara-smeared eyes. He looks straight into them, and he says, woman, neither do I condemn you. Now go and leave your past behind. Do you understand me? You want to know how God treats people? Then watch Jesus. How does he treat the social outcasts? Tell you what, back then it was the equivalent of AIDS today. Leprosy. A man comes with putrefying flesh. The crowd parts like water. Nobody wants to get near an AIDS victim or a leprosy person. But the man stumbles to Jesus' feet, and Christ reaches out and with his own hand touches the raw flesh. He says, you know what? I want you to be clean again. You want to know how God treats people? Hey, you want to know how God treats people who reject him and write him off in the end? And you watch that moment. Watch Jesus. Like a pack of fireflies, the torches of that angry mob, wending their way up into a garden called Gethsemane. At the front of the mob, a turncoat friend of Christ named Judas. And he says, listen, when I kiss him, you'll know who he is. In fact, let's read it. The story in Matthew chapter 27. Read these words. And while Jesus was still speaking, behold, Judas, one of the 12, with a great multitude, with swords and clubs, came from the chief priests and the elders of the people. Now his betrayer had given them a sign saying, whomever I kiss, he's the one. Seize him. And immediately he went up to Jesus. Greetings, Rabbi. And he kissed him. But Jesus said to him, friend, why have you come? What does Jesus call them? He calls even his deniers and rejectors, he calls them friends. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. You know what? God is not going to, it doesn't matter how you treat God, he still wants to be friends. I am not somebody to run from. I'm somebody to run to. I'm not someone to be afraid of. I'm someone to be a friend of. Come to me. One more text. I've got to put it on the screen. Take a look at this. Jeremiah chapter 29. And the reason I have it up here because I love the translation. It's not what we have in our laps. It's the New International Version. Jeremiah 29:11. Look at this. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. What a God. I want to close tonight with a story. It appeared in the Eastern papers here in the United States. The story about a woman driving all alone one midnight on an abandoned piece of interstate highway. She's minding her own business, and as can happen when you're driving all alone, suddenly you notice in the rearview mirror, somebody's coming from behind. She can tell by the bouncing halogen headlights. It's a huge truck. What do we call them? 18-wheelers, rumbling down the highway, and he turns his blinker on. The trucker's going to pass her, but when he gets right up beside her and can look down into her cab, whoosh, puts on his brakes, pulls back, and right behind her, he is stuck on her bumper. Ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. She's saying, well, come on, I know what it is. He wants me to go faster. That's what I'm going to do. So she put the pedal to the metal. Whoosh, she goes. And that trucker, ba-boom, ba-boom, he's right behind her. She says, you know, this is kind of crazy. I'm so dumb. You know what he wants to do? He wants to pass me. I'll slow down. Puts the brake on, slows down. That trucker, whoosh, puts his brakes on. His halogen eyes peering into her cab. He will not let her go. I want to tell you something. When you're a woman, hey, when you're anybody and you got a truck behind you, come on. Ba-boom, 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 ba-boom. Now she knows this man means only evil for me. Where is an exit? Where is an exit? She's peering for a little green reflector somewhere that says exit. Finally, a mile away, 1 mile exit. She screeches off that exit over the bridge. I'm looking for a gas station anywhere. There's a light. Racing into that gas station, slams on her brakes, jumps out of the car, goes screaming to the attendant, and right behind her, that 18-wheeler, that mad trucker, locks his air brakes, comes right in, jumps out of the cab, and races straight for the woman. But when he gets to her car, he stops, throws open the back door, reaches inside, and grabs a man who had been hiding behind her back seat. Sometime in the night, a man who wished her only evil had crept into her car unbeknownst to her, and from his high vantage point came someone who could see the trouble and was chasing her. Do you know what? She was running from the wrong one. She was running from the only one who could save her. Ladies and gentlemen, is that what's happening to the Titanic generation tonight? Are we, in fact, running from the wrong one? Have we mistaken the evidence? The only one who can save us is chasing us, and we are running. Can you believe it? I am not someone to run from. I am someone to run to. For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. I ask you, give me one good, compelling reason why you would reject God's forever friendship tonight. Thank you, Janice Chandler. My, that was powerful.